The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 6th day of November 2024. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. I'm Jamal Hartman, and Teo Dill will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in the news break brought to you by People's. All right, it is the morning after. How's everybody feeling today? It's Wednesday. It is the middle of the traditional work week. David Michael Wilson says, going to be a wild one, TDH fam and crew, but let's make it wonderful. Yeah. Suzanne Ingham says, awesome Wednesday, Jamal and Teo, and an awesome Wednesday to you as well. How's everyone feeling? I only got like an hour's sleep. Why are you heartbroken, Zane? What Zane CT says, heartbroken. Why are you heartbroken? What happened? I'm interested. What's going on? I just want to, before we get into today again, I just want to send love to the family of Dimitri Edwards. Of course, as I stated yesterday, Auntie Karen Simons, his aunt, is a faithful member of the TDH community who contributes greatly to this show. I believe his mom has been a guest on this show. And so I just want all of us as a community to keep them in your prayers, your thoughts, as they deal with this recent loss. All right, well, greetings everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Simons on. We're discussing the regiment and the role in the Remembrance Day Parade, so looking forward to that. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Excuse me, what's this cough about? Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Let's jump right into it. What are your thoughts on the U.S. presidential election results? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the U.S. presidential election results? What are you thinking about that? And do you believe that race and gender played a role in Kamala Harris losing to Donald Trump? Do you believe that, yes or no, do you believe that race and gender played a role in Kamala Harris losing to Donald Trump? But the question of the morning is, what are your thoughts on the U.S. presidential election results? What are your thoughts on the U.S. presidential election results? Renee Simmons says, not shocked, just as expected, but most unfortunate. Charles H. Jeffers II says the sun came up. There's still hope for a brighter day and tomorrow. Okay. What are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts? What do you think it means for Bermuda? Like, what are your thoughts? I was up all night trying to go to sleep, but just kept bringing me in and bringing me in and bringing me in. Shamari Talbot Ulrich says incumbents around the world are being ousted or facing heavy losses. It's the trend. France, UK, now the USA. Hadley and Swan said, feeling deflated. Zane CT says, absolutely. The US is so deeply rooted in racism, misogyny, that they would rather vote in Hitler reincarnated than a woman. Okay. Suzanne Ingham says she has bigger issues coming her way than gender and race. I agree. David Michael Wilson said, he says, I said what I said yesterday. The U.S. wasn't ready. I actually disagree. I think that race and gender may have played a role, but I don't think it played a huge role. I think Shamari Talbot pretty much said it. This is incumbents around the world. Here's what I want people to understand. I had the privilege of voting in this election. It's my first time voting in a US presidential election. I'm not joking when I tell you I read every platform. I read every platform. That's a responsibility to me as a voter to read every platform. Someone reached out to me last week, and they asked me last week, Monday or Tuesday, can you pose the question on the Daily Hour? Are you better off in Bermuda today than you were in 2017? And the same question applies to the United States. People have different issues. We have very different issues. Believe it or not, some people really do care about the economy and their ability to support themselves more than the rights of others. They do. And some people care about the rights of women and people more than they care about the economics. I'm not saying that race and gender didn't play a role in her loss. But folks, let's have a real honest conversation here. Because it's no different from Bermuda. People are struggling financially and economically. And I want to be very clear about this. I don't agree with the court ruling, the Trump appointed court ruling regarding abortion for different reasons that are personal to myself. But he did not, the whole Roe versus Wade repeal was him giving it to the states, right? And if you followed the election, it was on a few ballots last night. I think the only state that knocked it back, as well as legalizing marijuana, was Florida. Based on what I remember from last night. Again, I'm working on 1 hour sleep. So I don't think it's gonna. I think that was up to the people. And Florida, you can't be surprised with what happens there. But here are some facts that I want us to understand before we go on the race and gender thing too much, because emotions, right? We tend to really react on impulse. Here's some facts. Remember when I said we had someone on the show, and I said Mark Bean and had a conversation with Maya the other night. And whenever I talk to young people, my biggest concern, and Larry Marshall Jr. is one of my best friends, and I'm going to share something. We have a lot of private conversations, and he always tries to get me to understand that a lot of young people, Gen Zs, and the liberal ones, have never ever really been in other spaces. So all they see is what aligns with them a lot of the time, right? And it was different for me. I've been in spaces where I was the only Black person, the only foreign person, obviously the only Bermudian. I've worked in spaces with nothing but conservatives at a country radio station. I've worked for Disney where there are different people from me. I've purposely put myself in different environments to understand how and why people think differently. I've developed relationships with people. Young people went out in droves and voted for Donald Trump. In droves and voted for Donald Trump. Guess who else went out to vote for Donald Trump? Latinos. Yeah, you may be sitting here and saying, how could they vote for a man that's so disgustingly critical of Latinos, right? You may be saying that. Folks, there are people who don't care what you call them. They care about what you do that shapes how they're able to live and support themselves. That makes sense to you? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. You can't blame black men. 1 point difference from 2020. Let's end that now. You can't blame black men. All right? Black men did the same thing they did in 2020. And it was two elderly white men on the ballot. Did the same thing. But you know who was very consistent? Black women, I'm talking to you. Your allies. White women. White women went hard for Trump. You don't believe me? Go look at the numbers. Go look at the numbers. Those are your allies. Remember, women this, women that. Billie Jean King up there talking about, oh, women won the right to vote. Black women didn't win the right to vote for about 30 years later. Y'all need to understand, while you're focused on dividing yourselves from fellow black men, those who you think are allies, check yourself. Another point, and this is probably the most damning thing people are forgetting. In 2016, I said a couple things. One, folks need to focus on local elections. Local elections are really where things are decided for people, right? But I also said Donald Trump winning shouldn't be a bad thing for the Democrats back in 2016. This is an opportunity to get down to business and get the right people in spaces to push for the next couple of elections. They didn't do that. They just aimed for the next election. The Republicans played the long game the day that Barack Obama won November 2008. They were playing the long game from that point on. And you know what the long game brought them? And this is why I'm telling you, I'm not saying race and gender had nothing to do with it, but this is why I'm telling you that it's bigger than race and gender. This is unprecedented that the Democrats lost the presidency, the Senate, the House, and the popular vote. And here's the thing about the popular vote. You all underestimated Donald Trump and the Republicans. You all did. Because you kept saying, oh, Hillary won the popular vote, right? Even though he won the Electoral College. You kept saying, oh, well, Joe Biden won electoral and popular vote. He was always going to come. But the last point before I read you something, Donald Trump's been campaigning for 2 years. 2 years. Kamala Harris campaigned for 107 days. The Democrats' problem is they never prepared after 2016. The arrogance of that political entity to do what they did to Bernie Sanders, push Joe Biden forward. Well, they did it with Hillary Clinton first, then push Joe Biden forward. You knew Joe Biden was not going to be coherent in 4 years. You didn't even plan to push him aside or bring somebody along, right? But let me say this to you, because I want to get back to the audience. This is about you. As I just said, the Democrats seem to have learned nothing from trying to ram Hillary Clinton down the necks of Americans in 2016. They learned nothing from ramming Joe Biden on people's throats in 2020. They should have had candidates prepared to go for the primaries after the 2020 election. But nope, they waited. And once Biden was a disaster in that debate with Donald Trump, they decided to replace him with Kamala Harris. And not right away. As I said, they underestimated Donald Trump over and over. And it's easy to say he won because of misogyny and racism, because, it's much harder to look in the mirror and take accountability, right? It's much harder to take accountability for where you went wrong. He connected with young people, Muslim Americans, the Amish, Latino Americans, and yes, even Black Americans, both men and women. This is the reality that the Democrats and supporters have failed to realize there has been a realignment. People vote for various reasons. Donald Trump's message focused heavily on the economy and how Americans were living worse off than when you were under his administration. That's what people said in the exit polls. That's what they were feeling. Many continued to ignore the noise and the name calling and the childish antics of Donald Trump because his messaging about putting Americans first and bringing the price of groceries down and securing the borders resonated with them. It did. Let me say this. A statement was made last night in the United States of America. And that statement is that the presidency, the Senate, the House, and the popular vote all went one way. Instead of pointing fingers and blaming on others, the Democratic Party needs to look within. The Republican Party has played the long game. From 2008, when they saw a person in that position that did not look like they should be there, they started playing the long game. And guess what? It's working for them. If nothing else I said resonates with you this morning, let these final words I'm going to say right now resonate with you. Please, just close your eyes and take in what I'm about to say. Take in what I'm about to say. Stop thinking that the loudest people in the room represent the majority. Popularity, social media, is not a reflection of most people's reality. Let's go back to the audience. Do you believe that race and gender played a role in Kamala Harris losing to Donald Trump? But also, what are your thoughts on the results of the U.S. election? We've got ZNCT says white women constantly vote against their best interests. But were they voting against their best interests? Who are we to tell them they voted against their best interests? That's my point, right? Who are we to tell them that? If they believe the economy is better served under Donald Trump, then that's their best interest. Who are we to tell them that? What's then voting against their best interests? Shamari Talbot Warwick says Democrats are happy. This is great for fundraising. Shake my head. He says, blame Obama. The Ebix girl says we are horrified and many are seeking visa info. It's time to leave the USA, too tired to fight and face his wrath. Let me put it to you like this. It's interesting because we have Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Simons on today, and many people would know that I spent many years fighting to end conscription into the Bermuda Regiment. Very clearly, our issue was never the Bermuda Regiment. Our issue was conscription. Larry Marshall Jr., again, one of my close friends and a co-host on this show. Remember I said young people voted heavily for Donald Trump, right? And I've been telling a lot of young people, stop thinking that all young people are liberal and think this way, right? You know what they said young people were saying at the exit polls, the biggest reason they went with Trump? At least according to NBC. Because Donald Trump went on to Joe Rogan's show and related to them. Think about that. I bring up conscription because Larry Moss Jr. reminds me, he says, look, man, nobody's taking any hard stances these days. Think about it. Young people who are speaking up nowadays, they're still getting scholarships. They ain't getting blackballed like we were when we were standing up. Nobody's taking on a real cause. So the noise, the popularity, the idea of popularity is making us think certain things that just are not realistic. I don't want us to get lost in thinking that it's race and gender. There's a bigger underbelly. I'm not saying the Democratic Party set up Kamala Harris to fail, but 107 days, you should have known that Joe Biden shouldn't have been running in this election 4 years ago. I said that. 107 days versus 2 years of campaigning. I don't care who the president is. To have the House and the Senate is dangerous to me. Anika, don't get me started. Taylor knows how I feel about that. She says, agree, Bernie was the better candidate. No, but see, we like to think, oh, Bernie wouldn't have done this, wouldn't have done that. What we do know is Donald Trump didn't beat Bernie. He beat Hillary Clinton, and he beat Kamala Harris. That's what we do know. Thank you, Shamari Talbot Woolrich. This right here. And no one wants to talk about this. Say what you want about Donald Trump. He had primaries. He had a primary. The Democrats did not give enough time to have a proper primary and have a candidate. Now, I want to address something because people keep repeating this nonsense about Kamala Harris, the most qualified, this and that. If you've never heard me say this before, what does qualified look like to you? Because qualified doesn't mean that you had a certain job or you've been doing something for a long time. You know what qualified means to me? Qualified is Phil Jackson, a basketball coach, who can say, I don't have years of experience as a coach. I have years of successful experience as a coach where I've done this, that, and the other. You feel what I'm saying? We've got to fight the narratives, because if not, we're going to be in the same place 4 years from now with more excuses. Address the problems at their core. Stop running from reality. Huntley and Swan says, yes, I feel that race and gender played a part. I disagree. I'm sorry. I agree that they may have, but I don't think that was the major factor. That's my point. I don't think that was the major factor. Amari Simon says, I think the media and access to information have outpaced democracy, not based on facts, but based on messages. Both parties do that, though. Here's the thing. Here's my hope, and I'll say this later, too, because I got to bring Teo in. I'm sure he has a lot to say on this. I await the day, and I'm going to start sounding like Mark Bean a bit, right? But not really, because I'm not a politician. He is. I await the day when we put as much effort into building our families and our communities as we do into politics. Because one of the biggest lessons for me in this election, David Burt and his administration should not feel safe. Because if Americans are saying the economy was number one, and they are not better off economically, they're paying more for groceries and rents and can't buy a house, Bermudians, who's the stupid ones then? Because a lot of people saying, oh, Americans are stupid. You all complain about the same thing that people who voted for Trump are saying. If not, again, not everyone's issues are the same. Economically, it's a struggle out here, man. I'm not saying ignore everything about human rights and civil rights, but we have to think deeper. We have to stop acting on impulse and emotion. That we've done that in 2016, and 8 years later, we're in a worse situation. And I'm not just talking worse situation because Donald Trump's elected. I'm talking a worse situation because they have the House and the Senate. Someone said, oh, he's about to be impeached. They ain't going to impeach him. I disagree. It was not definitely gender and race. I'm not saying that they play a role. Listen to everything I just said. Everything I just said. People are struggling. Struggling. People are financially struggling. I understand them. If they believe that they're worse off, let's remove Donald Trump and Kamala Harris out of it, because Shamari Talbot addressed it earlier. He said, where was it? He said something about the incumbents. This is happening universally. Remove the candidates. She is representative of the incumbent. The person in government, the last person who was a VP to win the actual election, I think was George Bush 1. These are facts. These are facts, folks. I'm not sharing based on emotion. As the incumbent, she was up against it because the economy is worse off. We have to admit that. I'm not saying racism and sexism, gender, and race didn't play a role. It's not as major as you may believe. Trust me. Trust me. All right. Let's bring Taylor in for Daily Hour News Break. I'm sure he has something to say. And don't worry, we've got Major Duncan. Colonel Duncan Simons coming on to lighten up the conversation and bring some love to us.
Hey, Jake. Morning. Good to see you.
Just jump. Go ahead. I'm ready because I know you've been writing a sermon. Go ahead, Taylor.
No, I honestly haven't, because I think everything that you're saying broadly is reasonable. It's rational, right? But the thing that I think you don't get is that what precedes and follows the decision making that's been demonstrated in this most recent election and for the support of Trump for the duration of his time in public office. That is to say, people can believe what they want to believe. Obviously, it's obviously like, it's not even interesting to say that. The thing is, if you interrogate the beliefs a little bit, it's difficult to understand. For example, the folks, I think Mr. Talbot Woolrich mentioned this, the folks that decided not to vote for Vice President Harris on the basis of the lack of her fulsome support for an end to the conflict in Gaza.
Yes.
Trump is categorically worse for Gaza.
I mean, he said that.
No. I'm talking about every action that he's taken during the presidency indicated unquestioning, undeniable, unambiguous, unconditional support for the state of Israel.
No, he said as much.
Yeah, no, but what my point is, the people that said, I can't support Kamala because she's not good enough on Gaza, so I'm not going to help her. So, therefore, allowing the dude who's going to be worse for Gaza to have a bigger chance of getting in power. But like you can believe what you want to believe.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. But here's the thing. And this is, again, going back to what Shamari talked about, Ward said, the incumbent, right?
Oh, no. I'm saying that's just facts.
No, but they're not. But my point is, what you just explained is they're not happy with how the incumbent handled it, right? So they don't want to stick with him. I think it's probably a bit crazy and silly, knowing that it's going to probably be worse on the new person. But what they're basically saying is, look, you had a chance to tell us you'd be different from what the Democrats have been doing all the time, and you didn't. So what am I to do? You feel me? Like,
but this is, I know I have the perfect answer to that. Now, to my values in mind, it's what I always say when we have conversations like this. Voting is an act of harm reduction more than anything else, to minimize the damage that the state can do to you. So saying that I'm not going to get everything that I want, therefore I'm going to allow the thing that will materially be worse for me and the issues that I support to occur, it doesn't make sense. In fact, politics is the only space that we operate like this in. Like, in every part of our lives, we always pick the lesser of two evils. Always. When you go to the grocery store, right? You know the things that you buy, it's not the most perfect possible food option available. You get what you can. You get what you can. When you get a relationship, you don't wait till you get the most perfect person in the history of that has no flaws, nothing you can critique about them. You get the best option available for you, right? Like, this is how we could not function as a species without accepting that every decision we take comes with things that we're not going to be happy with, except for some weird reason, politics. Like, it's so strange. So, but the other thing that I wanted to say is that this demonstrates more than anything else, like the breakdown of the reality-based consensus that we've talked about a little bit before. Like, for example, you know how, like, Trump's singular economic policy that he was pitching in the lead up to this election was universal tariffs, right? Now, if you ask the average person what tariffs do, how they work, they don't even know.
And I think
so no, but this is the point. the people that voted for him on the basis of their pocketbook, right? They felt the economy was hurting them. Like, I want somebody to reduce prices, to reduce the financial burdens that I'm under. They didn't know that the guy they voted for is planning to make everything, based on what he said, 10, 20, 500,000% more expensive. Every single import that comes into the country. So that's why, Jay, when people say they voted for their pocketbook, you interrogate a little bit, like, you could feel that way, you could believe it if you want, but if you just ask them a couple follow questions, then clearly it couldn't have been that. It couldn't have been.
But I've always said to you,
yeah,
that policy and legislation is what politicians exist for, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to economics, it's not always directly tied to the legislation and policies. It's not. Mm-hmm. However, when it works or when it doesn't work, it becomes politically expedient, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, what we cannot dismiss, Teo, rather, Barack Obama, former President Obama, yeah, the economy was much better under Trump because it was my economy, he stated, right? Mm-hmm. Most folks voting, all they know is when Donald Trump was president before the pandemic, they felt like they were living better. Right?
No. I'm not. I don't think anybody would disagree with you with that.
As far as the tariffs,
yeah,
Donald always thinking about that because he's promised other things that he may be able to deliver now that he has the House and the Senate, right?
Economically, like what?
As far as no taxes on overtime. Stuff like that. There are other things he said economically. It's not just the tariffs that he said.
That the tariffs thing came up. I mean, I don't definitively know, but I paid a lot of attention to his election. 85% of the time during his standard stump speech, the no taxes on overtime, that was like, he doesn't believe in that one, right? That's not the one that matters to him. And to be honest with you, that's the one that's more likely to slide through because it's just a plain good idea.
And no tax,
right? Like the Democrats supported that too. Well, like it doesn't set them apart. That was on Kamala's policy page.
But here's the thing:
you know what I'm saying?
The House are both Republican, right? They're both red.
Yeah.
The tariffs thing's not going to happen. Like his wall will never happen. It's not going to happen.
But this is the thing, Jay. This is the other infuriating thing. There were two categories of Trump voters that I understood, like the genuine hardcore MAGA folks that genuinely believe and want everything he says just because he says it, right? Like it doesn't matter what he asks for. That's what they want. The other group, and this is the one that is the most confusing / terrifying to me because it demonstrates like a complete absolution of personal responsibility. They're the people that say, I don't believe what he says. Like, I don't think he's going to do what he's been promising to do for the entire time. I don't think he's actually going to deport 20 million people within 4 years. I don't think he's actually going to do it, but I'm going to support him anyway. Like, if you're not supporting him for what he says he's going to do, what are you supporting him for? Which is how people get led to the conclusion, well, it must be race, it must be gender, it must be something else. Because when you ask them,
why not the conclusion that we can come to in Bermuda, which is what I mentioned earlier, that we, if we're honest, are not living better off than we were in 2017 right now. So why can't it be the conclusion that we're not living better off in the United States in 2024 than we were in 2020?
Oh, no. I'm trying to explain why. Because just like you said, like it suggests that they're just silly, right? Because in the same way that you just said, Trump carried on with the record-breaking, record-setting economy that Obama left him, right? So the reason conditions were better when he came into office weren't because of him. In fact, none of the economic policies that he would have put in place, this is how it works with the presidency when you're passing laws. Like, if you pass a law in 2016, it's not going to have an impact on the national economic situation for a couple of years, right? So if you think for good reason that you were living better then, but you don't ask yourself 1 second why, then like you're silly. You are silly. Like that. I guess what I'm hoping to explain just to you, like this is why folks on the other side of this are so confused and frustrated. Like the immediate response, we say people felt broke, they felt uncomfortable, they felt worse off. Obviously, like that makes good sense. Despite the fact that the U.S. was outperforming the OECD and every other country in the G7 economically since the pandemic, but whatever.
I think you're doing a great job trying to make sense of why the Democrats lost. But I think I said this last week, and I quoted from Chris Cuomo, and I think this is the one thing we're all forgetting, especially as Black people, right? Mm-hmm. Traditionally, we would have supported someone like Trump because he came in. Yeah, it's basically right here. Chris Cuomo spoke about it. It's after the system. Trump supporters hate the system. He doesn't represent the political establishment. He represents the 1%, but he doesn't represent the political establishment. The way he operates, don't let emotion lead us.
This is not an emotional thing. No, you don't know why I'm frowning on my face.
He's anti-political establishment.
No, you don't know why I'm frowning on my face.
What's that?
Okay. If you talk to the people that are really frustrated with the establishment, right? They say it's a global cabal of elites and governments and powerful people working together, which explicitly defines Trump all the way up until the time he decided to run for office, outside of performative aesthetics, right? Like if you look at his business career, how he spent his money, how he supported every single politician in the game, did all the glad handing, went to the meetings, da-da-da. The only thing that's different about Trump is that he acts like a goof, right? Like what, as far as his actions are concerned, he was one of them.
Yeah.
1%. In fact, since he's been in office, he was the worst one of them. Like his son-in-law, which no experience in government at all, put him in position to get in tight with the Saudis, walked away with a $2 billion deal on the back end of it. And none of these people care, right? That's like when they say they hate the establishment. No, that's not it, because that's him.
I disagree.
It just is.
I disagree because the establishment is people who have made a career out of politics. It's not people like Joe Biden's.
That's not what they say, bro. That's not what they say when it's over the establishment. They complain about George Soros. That man's never held political office.
Well, he's another.
They're upset with wealthy people that have a lot of power. That's Donald Trump.
Is a financial backer of the Democratic Party. He's a part of the establishment. Let's be honest.
But Trump backed the Democratic Party and the Republican Party for 30 years.
But as soon as he became a Republican candidate, that's when people like Oprah started thinking he was a bad person. So, like, look, let's be
real. Because no. People don't think he was a bad person because he launched his political career off saying that Barack Obama was not born in the U.S. just because he was black. That's why people didn't like him from jump.
That's how he got into the Bertha argument. I don't disagree with that, but
I'm saying that's why people don't like him, bro. It's not just
why did so many Republicans, including J.D. Vance, Liz Cheney, and so many others, why did they hate Donald Trump's guts?
Because he's dumb, and crucially, he has no governing philosophy, right? Serious people, and Jay, I know you know this, right? Like imagine we're talking about radio, right? Some guy says he's trying to set up a radio station and he's saying things that don't make no sense.
We've seen
are completely disconnected with reality.
We've seen it.
Yeah, we've seen it and we laugh at it. We clown it because we know better. And then imagine everybody starts listening. And it's not because, and they say it's the best quality. Meanwhile, the thing's fizzy, the compression is bad, like the music it doesn't even exist, right? Like when people say stuff, when they describe reality in a way that I can't recognize, I don't know that's entirely my fault. But that's all I'm saying.
Here's the thing. I disagree with nothing you said, but what you failed to do of everything I said this morning, you failed to address everything that I'm speaking as to why people won't vote, right? And saying why she lost. I mean, she
lost for a whole bunch of like the reason that you
young people. Why was he able to convince more young people to vote for him? Like, I don't think all these young people are dumb. I don't think these white women are dumb. The Democrats need to do a job and that they failed to do. You just did a better job than the Democrats did explaining stuff.
I don't think I did. I honestly don't think I did.
You think they did a good job of explaining? Barack Obama, before his clips came out, you didn't see that kind of stuff being said, Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I know I'm like a deep political obsessive. I watch everything from everybody, This was always the messaging. Like during the first 2 years of the Trump presidency, that was the messaging. It just was.
That was 20.
I'm telling you, man.
Right? People have short memories, bro. People are in it. No,
but like that, I don't think is something to say that somebody should be proud of, right? Like to critique that, to say, well, you have the memory of a goldfish, and you say, well, that's just how I am. Like, okay, fine, you are, but like you should be clowned for that.
It's an 18, 19, 21, 20-year-old voter. Like, it's not these people 8 years ago were like teenagers and children. Like, I'm literally speaking to you right now about these young people who went out and voted in droves. Like, why did they vote for Donald Trump? They said,
oh, well, we don't know the splits yet. So there does
shared this morning.
No, I'm saying.
And also,
no.
percent of Latinos voting for Trump. Like, we need answers to those questions.
That is yeah, like it's complicated, but more than anything else,
I'm mad at you because Teo, we got Colonel Simons coming on.
This ain't my fault.
20 minutes talking, and I told you come in from jump so we can have this conversation. Now we got to ask Colonel, can he stay a bit longer so we can get through our important combo? But Colonel, we're so sorry. I really am. But Teo and I, if you know us, this is what I told him come early so that we could do this.
Colonel, I'm sorry. I had to get my kids ready to go to school and nursery and stuff, so I apologize, brother. I'm sorry.
Finish your thought. You saying something?
Oh no, but more than anything else, I think this represents what the real problem at bottom is, that the reality-based consensus has broken, right? Like the United States the entire country looks at one thing, and about half of it sees an elephant, and the other one sees a rocking chair. And and the frustrating thing is that on an empirical basis, one of them is right. Like there is an elephant there, but it just, people believe what they want to believe. And obviously you can believe what you want to believe, but like, if it's not true, if it's not real, like what is everybody else supposed to do with that?
I'll say this much. Nobody's talking about it, but the fact that Ted Cruz can win comfortably in Texas is a bigger story that reflects America than Trump winning to me. And I want to say this. We can go on and on all day, but this trend is not going to stop Republican-wise until the Democrats look in the mirror and address what it is they have to address. The exit polls told us a very interesting story. White women, how do they convert them? Latinos go in that route, right? Young people voting for the first time, they watch Joe Rogan. I mean, Kamala Harris was invited on there, didn't go. It's like when Hillary Clinton didn't go to Michigan and lost. So I'm just saying there's so many factors as to why they lost.
Oh, yeah. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just trying to express the bottom, like as far as I see it, right? Yeah,
like, but I think
the bottom.
Here's my last statement on it because we got to go, please. But my last statement is this: take Trump out of the equation. The way the political entity won last night, the presidency, the Senate, the House, and the popular vote, is dangerous to me.
Well, yeah,
it's dangerous.
That's why we're upset.
It's dangerous, and that's what's your final statement on the take? That's my final thing. I'll say it's dangerous, and in saying it's dangerous, we must look in the mirror. When I say me, we, all of us, even Bermudians who don't vote, because what they say, again, I said the quote yesterday, right? America sneezes, Bermuda gets cool. We are impacted by these decisions, which is why so many world leaders have opinions, right? We need to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, how did we get here? Not pointing fingers and blaming, not crying about race or gender or whatever it is, but looking at the bigger picture, because there are so many other factors.
That's true. The thing I'd want to leave is this, and this is something that genuinely hurts me to say, but I think it's just measurably true. Trump being in office is probably better for Bermuda on a financial level.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's going to deregulate make it easier for businesses to make as much money as possible, which is to say, use domiciles in jurisdictions like ours. So, it's actually me arguing against my interest to, critique this. But as far as we're concerned, and like our pocketbooks, this is probably going to be better for us.
That's been the trend. Republican presidents have usually equated to a better economy for Bermuda.
Yeah. Not for the U.S.
No.
But for Bermuda.
Yeah. All right, Tay, I'm sorry. Colonel, sorry. Hope you don't have time to make, because, military time, we do things on time. But Tay, let's get to the news so that we can get to Simons.
Now, this might just feel like a weird segue, but it is what it is. You may have noticed that the roadside vegetation around the island is looking a little less shaggy lately. This is due to Public Works teaming up with Works and Engineering to actively maintain our roadways, trimming trees, and clearing the overgrown vegetation we've been complaining about at various locations across the island to enhance road safety by maintaining clear sight lines and throughways for drivers. Public Works Minister Lieutenant Colonel David Birch added, "We understand the importance of safe and accessible roads for our community and are committed to ongoing maintenance efforts." So, yay, that's good.
Let's get more back pretty.
Yeah, it's been looking a little shaggy lately. Now, one of Bermuda's longest serving airlines may be improving its relationship with us here on the island. This was the hoped for result, or is the hoped for result, of Transport Minister Wayne Furbert's recent meetings with senior British Airways execs in London. According to Minister Furbert, the conversations included data indicating there may be opportunities to extend connectivity beyond Bermuda to Heathrow to Europe and Eastern destinations. And the minister also asked BA to explore potential opportunities for lowering economy fares to make Bermuda a more accessible and competitive destination.
Well, that's beautiful. I like that.
Yeah. And speaking of British Airways, they've been flying to Bermuda for nearly 100 years now. And the initial decision to do so was due to one of the most significant air tech tragedies in human history. You remember the Hindenburg, the German dirigible, that blimp, was initially pitched as the vehicle template for transatlantic flight, like a safer, more comfortable, cheaper way to get from one side of the ocean to the other. Well, it very much was not, as was discovered on May of 1937, when the hydrogen-filled blimp, while landing in New Jersey, caught fire, basically just destroyed itself, killing 35 of the 100 passengers on board, which recentered the value of airplanes, right? Like, okay, these blimps are not working. We got to focus on the planes. As a direct result, British Airways, then known as Imperial Airways, decided to fly a shorter distance across the Atlantic, specifically to Bermuda. So, yeah, like the Hindenburg helped it, just like we talk about.
Another cool history story today. I like that.
Yeah. Also, the 15% corporate income tax for businesses generating more than 750 million euros annually is just months away. And ABIR CEO John Huff is confident the local market is ready for it. He told as much to an interviewer in a recent piece published on Insure.tv.
I think it will be very manageable, and most importantly, that's what the analysts think as well. So we stood with the Premier arm in arm last year, August of 2023, worked in getting the Corporate Income Tax Act passed by 2023 is very important for our member companies. We just recently worked with the government to get the Corporate Income Tax Agency passed, a quasi-governmental agency which will implement and execute the tax collection. We expect a commissioner to be named any day now, so a lot of progress being made.
I want to know where he is.
Monte Carlo.
Okay, thought so. Yeah, I'm interested to see how this corporate income tax, again, with the Trump presidency as well. Some interesting times.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, bro. Like, it's a whole thing. Anyway, as far as the weather is concerned, it is pleasantly boring. That is for today, a strong patch of high pressure. It's parked over the island, should keep skies clear, breeze gentle. It is starting to get chilly, though. I know you felt it when you left the house this morning. So because the low is going to be in the mid 60s. So keep your windbreaker ready for when you decide to drive home, because it's definitely chilly.
All righty. Thanks so much for that take. Look. At the end of the day, I want to ask Teo something before he goes. All right. A lot of people stayed up late. Some people woke up upset at what they saw, right? Calm down, emotions aside, consider it and think. But what people need to understand, there may be a writ dropped in Bermuda this week. The throne speech in Bermuda is on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. Bermuda Bermudians, it may be your turn. Teo, I said to someone, I may have said it on this show, that depending on what happens in the U.S. presidential election, the premier may call an election. Do you think he's going to call an election based on the results in the U.S.?
I honestly, I don't think I can't see this having that much impact on the date for the election, because we got to have one really soon anyway. So like any election that he calls, it'd be difficult to call it an early election. So yeah, I just can't see it being all that relevant. Like the consequences of the election are significant for the next government, but as far as like what the election date is going to be, I mean, I could be wrong, but I just can't see it. You
think he's going to drop the writ Friday though?
I mean, it'd be as good a time as any.
I want to take a bet. I honestly think, do not be surprised, Bermuda. I don't want to predict it because at the end of the day, I think David Bert's very smart when it comes to the elections. I do. Do not be surprised if David Bert, the Premier of Bermuda, drops a writ on Friday after that throne speech. Why? Because he knows based on the by-election, there's no harmony with his opponents.
Oh, I see. Going as early as possible or as close as possible to the confirmation that they're not really trying to get together.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes good political
sense. I think David Bert drops that writ. No, he drops that writ on Friday. It gets interesting because what did I say? And Teo, I agree with everything Teo said earlier, folks. If you know us, I agree. The tariffs, everything. Trust me. I've read. When I say I've read a lot, I've read, folks. Trust me. I get it. I don't disagree with what he said. But now let's bring it to Bermuda. Bermudians are not economically better off. The PLP has failed, in my opinion, to address civil and human rights issues that people are interested in. It's going to be interesting. I'm not saying the PLP will lose, but I think the current state of how Bermudians feel will give us an interesting election result in December of 2024 if he calls it.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. Like I think a reduction of the PLP's presence in Parliament is priced in. Like the original 36 split, that was so disproportionate as to break down inevitably. So yeah, I don't think they're looking forward to it one way or the other, and they shouldn't be.
All right, Tate, let me we've got to take a commercial break, but for those who are tuned in, if you haven't already, please do this for us. Fill out our surveys just in the comments right there. Fill out our annual survey. We're going to take a quick break. Tate, thanks so much for the commentary. I wish you would have came in earlier, but I know the kids come first. I'm not trying to do you wrong. Hey, man.
Thank you, bro.
Talk soon.
I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Teo Dill, folks. If you never heard Teo and I on the radio, you won't understand what you heard this morning. Love that, brother. Trust me. Good conversation. We're going to be back in about 1 minute, 58 seconds with Col Duncan Simons. Stick with us.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's. I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Unlock your business potential with BDC's General Microloan, offering up to $30,000 for Bermudian small and medium businesses, whether it's for inventory, working capital, or equipment. We provide 100% guarantee on approved loans. Simple application, low interest rates, and fast processing. Apply today and make your business dream come true.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Novazok Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative Program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
All righty, welcome back to the Big Show. Jamal Hartman here. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical Oils, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. Please do not forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us, grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Good things no one's in studio with me, but others got me coughing. I didn't get any sleep. All right. Folks, we've got to bring our guest in today. Without further ado, let's bring in our special guest for the day. We've got Col Duncan Simons from the Bermuda Regiment. We're talking about Remembrance Day and the state of the regiment as they look to grow numbers to make sure we have enough people for the needs of our local military. Bring in Royal Bermuda Regiment. My apologies. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to Colonel. Greetings, sir. How are you?
Yes, good morning, Jamal. Good morning to your listeners. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
First off, let me apologize for Teo. My goodness, that brother could talk right now.
Knowing Teo, I knew that was going to happen. So.
I'm joking. First off, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience and trust in our platform to have these most important conversations with us. This is your second time on, and actually, when you were last on, Colonel, I think a couple days later, you were named the Colonel, Commanding Officer of the Bermuda Regiment. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
But secondly, just explain to the audience what the role of the Commanding Officer is actually responsible for.
So, it's pretty much in the name. I'm basically the person with the privilege of commanding the regiment, with sort of delivering on our missions and roles. And, also as a government department, a department head, sort of making sure that we are compliant and being run well.
Okay. And so you're like the CEO of the organization.
Exactly.
Okay. And we spoke about this last time you were on. The numbers over the years, we've seen them dwindle. Budgets have been cut and the like. It's noticeable with the band. Like when I watched the parade and saw the regiment band, it was so, I used to go to Beta Retreat, and the Peppercorn when I was young. My nana loved it. So, and it was just so many people. I don't know if that's due to not having conscription, lack of funding, or maybe just not a lot of Bermudians because we've had so many people moving away. But what is the regiment doing in current day to attract more people into its ranks?
Yeah, so we're doing what we've been doing for the past few years, sort of engaging with the community, advertising, telling our story. But the solution long-term is engagement with young people. And you raised the band. Band's a great example where this summer, as well as last summer, we had a youth band camp over the summer. So we had 22 musicians in the summer, and we're growing the ranks of our junior band. COVID hasn't helped. We had, music programs over the past few years have really suffered because of that. But we're sort of rebounding and putting energy and efforts into youth engagement. So the youth junior band is one component, junior leaders is another. We're seeking to expand that over the next year into the schools. And certainly this week in the Remembrance period, we have been visiting primary schools across the island. And by Friday, we will probably have visited or presented to 1,500 school children. And that's just to raise awareness about Remembrance and Bermuda's military history. We have a rich military history as an institution. The regiment, the military, has really been sort of part of core to the Bermudian identity. So, connecting with the next generation, I think, is the solution long term, and that's not necessarily going to bear fruit next year or 2 years from now. Certainly 5 years from now, we will be in a stronger place.
I love that, going into the schools. That's awesome. Shifting gears to, you mentioned Remembrance Day. How does the Bermuda Regiment go about preparing for it? I know ceremonial is one of the purposes of the organization. What all goes into preparing for Remembrance Day?
Yeah, so the main effort is really the parade we provide. One of our missions and roles or tasks is to support the ceremonial functions of the island, which is why we have a band, why we march on parade. So ensuring that sort of our part of that ceremony is stitched up. We'll have a couple guards on parade. There will also be the war veterans, of course, members of the Royal Bermuda Regiment Association. So if you're a former soldier, you have the opportunity to march on parade through them. And yeah, just ensuring that the ceremony is appropriate and carries sufficient dignity and it goes well. So so that's one aspect. We also provide support to the Bermuda Legion. So telling the story about Remembrance, which is why we've been in the schools for the past couple of weeks, helping with their poppy appeal. So their poppy appeal is tomorrow, Thursday, as well as Saturday. So if you see anyone on the street selling poppies, please contribute, because those funds support former soldiers, be it veterans of wars or former Bermuda Regiment or Royal Bermuda Regiment soldiers who are in need. So the Legion is there, and we support them as well.
Audience, if you have any questions or comments, please send them through. I will get to them, so just hold tight. You mentioned war soldiers and previous Bermuda Regiment, Royal Bermuda Regiment soldiers. Why is it so important to, I guess, celebrate and honor them during the Remembrance Day? And I know my grandfathers both were veterans, and we're getting to a point where life's doing the cycle's happening. They're dying off. How is the regiment going about keeping their memories alive and keeping their legacies involved in the festivities for Remembrance Day?
Yeah, I think what distinguishes the military and other services, particularly, but the military from other jobs, is that at some point we could be called to put our life on the line and take a risk that may lead to death, and that's just the reality. Not so much here, but when you think about the militaries around the world, that is the ultimate sacrifice, right? So it's important that we recognize that and carry that torch and make sure that people are aware. In terms of protecting that legacy, from my standpoint, it's really supporting as best we can the efforts of the Bermuda Legion, engaging with education around military history, which we're doing with schools, and that's really, I think, what we can do. There are several services over this weekend. Remembrance Day on Mondays is the main event, but of course on the Sunday there are a series of church services around the island, be it St. James in Somerset, St. Peter's in St. George's, a few others. There's the BMA Memorial service, Town Square Sunday morning. So we do our best to support those. Jarvis Bay as well at All Boys Point with the Ski Cadets. And so we make the rounds. We provide as much support as we can to these events to keep them front and center. And it's really, I think, in terms of preserving that legacy, it's all about education, engaging with young people, so that they are aware of our history. Because in the social media age, everything's present here now. Everything's through your phone, and the ability to slow down, step back, and reflect is something that we're working to encourage.
Indeed. We have a question from Michael Daniels. He said, would you support a suggestion that the increased number of lifeguards that Bermuda needs could come out of the regiment? Interesting.
Yeah, we're undergoing a review of our missions and roles at the moment, and we have a few areas where we focus on. We have the new thing, of course, is Coast Guard Maritime Search and Rescue. That's a very resource intensive, demanding role. Not a whole lot of people dedicated to it, but it is there. Then it's sort of force protection, so traditional military roles. When you think of rifles, riots, and that sort of thing, we maintain that capability. Then there's the HADR, humanitarian aid disaster relief. It's a post-hurricane approach to delivering a service. And then ceremonial. So we just talked about Remembrance Day. Assistance to the Bermuda community. That's sort of youth engagement, really. And then assistance to the international community. So we, from time to time, go overseas and provide assistance. And, with all these roles, I think we have to remember that we are an organization of 300 people at the moment, 40 of whom are full-time staff. And we have to be selective about sort of what we can do and what we can't do, and just be, not promise anything we can't deliver, but maintain this broad set of tasks, or capability across this broad set of tasks, without compromising anyone in a big way. So, when you think about lifeguards at the beaches, sure, we could potentially help out, but at the expense of something else.
Right.
Most people are part-time. If it's full-time staff, then is that what they signed up to do? So it's not a hard no, but certainly the conversation has to be had. And perhaps there's an opportunity for other departments or more work around recruiting for the lifeguards and getting people in. Certainly in the days of conscription, you could have had access to more numbers or had national service,
Right.
and so perhaps you do a year of lifeguarding as your national service. That type of thing could be a solution, but again, that's outside of my wheelhouse.
I think that I'm encouraged that it's something that can be considered, but again, I think numbers wise, you just said, like, where are you going to take from? So
what are you giving up? That's always the question. And the paymaster, quartermaster, whenever I want to say, look, I want to do this or that. So
yeah,
it's really an accounting exercise. Time, people's time, and money,
right?
And how do we allocate our resources?
Yeah, thank you for that, sir. Charles H. Jeffs II, he's asking, when sharing the history of Bermuda's military, do you share all the history of the Bermuda militia infantry?
Of course. So we have a history page on our website, rbr.bm, bermudaregiment.bm, that outlines sort of a snapshot of our history. There's certainly, during the talks with the schools, we do hit on the points, but again, the audience are essentially, in this instance, primary school students. But obviously that's part of Bermuda's history, and we're going to tell the full story. It's not just the Bermuda Regiment 1965 onwards. It's really,
right.
We have this 400-year tradition of militias, and then up to 1895 when when the local units were formally stood up, plus the British garrisons that were here over the years, and then the Royal Bermuda Regiment in 1965, Royal Bermuda Regiment 2005 onwards. So yeah, it's a pretty long story, and we benefit from having this richness of history when we look to our south and the other overseas territory regiments, two of whom have just stood up, Cayman and Turks and Caicos Islands. They're really trying to instill that culture, and because they don't have that history and culture, it's harder to start up the unit. A military unit takes many years to stand up. To get to a major or warrant officer, you need a dozen years of experience. You can't just hire off the street to fill these roles.
Indeed. Mark Arthur C. Phillips is asking, are there any war veterans from World War I and World War II that are still alive?
There are no World War I veterans still alive. World War II veterans, I think, very few and far between. I don't know. Cal Everson of the Bermuda Legion could tell you, but there are other veterans from more recent wars, Korean War, Vietnam War, obviously through the U.S., who are obviously alive. And we're transitioning away from just recognizing World War I, World War II to the whole, the whole picture. People who served in the Bermuda Regiment and other wars are considered in that cohort. Essentially, if we've served a day in any military, you're considered a veteran.
Okay. Colonel, can you just remind people when the parade takes place, where they can watch and what time?
Yeah, so basically it's the 11th day of the 11th month during the 11th hour. So the last post will be played at 11 a.m. Monday morning. The parade will commence at about 10:30. The ceremony happens at the Cenotaph Cabinet Grounds on Front Street. So if you show up at 10:30 Monday morning, you will be able to capture the whole parade. And it's a really beautiful service. There's wreath laying, there's a massed band. So the Royal Bermuda Regiment band, supplemented by the Salvation Army band, Somerset Brigade band, and the Island Pipe band, all come together and perform jointly.
All right. And for those who don't know what the last post is one of the most beautiful things played at both of my grandfather's funerals. I absolutely love it. My cousins, since my grandfather passed, my mother's mother, since he passed, I know we had my one of my cousins walk in the parade. Is that something that comes under you, the Royal Bermuda Regiment, where you allow people to do that?
Yeah, it's difficult because we provide the platform, and I think if you have someone a relative who was a veteran, you can certainly march in the parade to recognize them. We may wear medals on the left, but if you're wearing someone else's medals, you'd wear them on the right. Some people carry a picture and recognize the service of their loved ones that way. And then if you served in the Bermuda Regiment, as it was, you can certainly march with the Royal Bermuda Regiment Association. They will be there if you show up for 10 o'clock on Monday morning.
Even if you only done 6 months and then never went.
Yeah, you could show up as well. So they just wear gray pants, blue blazer, and a tie, regiment tie.
See, I think the audience
they can partake in the ceremony.
They'll say, you fought to end conscription, and I'll say, I didn't fight to end the Bermuda Regiment. But I thank you for this conversation. It's always helpful, and I think the thing that I appreciate most when someone from the Bermuda Regiment or the Bermuda Police comes on is really getting an understanding of what people actually do in the organization, what the capabilities are. I don't think even today a lot of people have an understanding of what your responsibilities are. I think the Coast Guard was added within the last 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2020.
Right. So you've definitely added responsibilities, but while adding those responsibilities, the numbers have dwindled. I would love to see, the Bermudians who may be struggling, right? And when I say struggling, I mean, look, things have gone up. If they would look at part-time opportunities in the Bermuda Regiment, that could be beneficial for the organization, themselves, and their community. So I'm hopeful that we can play a part in helping drive the numbers up for the benefit of Bermuda and Bermudians. Please keep in touch with us. Is there anything you want to say to the people of Bermuda before you head out?
Look, I have to plug service of the regiment. And for me, when I was part-time, it was really a fantastic second job. We have our next intake in February. You can sign up now on our website, rbr.bm/bermudaregiment.bm/join. Fill out the form there. We'll have you in. We have an open day next week Saturday. So if you want to come to work camp, we'll show you around, show you some of the units that are training, take you up to the Coast Guard. It's an opportunity for a soft touch. So it's no commitment. Just show up, check us out. We're looking to have a recruit camp in February. We didn't have one this summer. We had one in February of this year, but it is an opportunity to basically give 30 days of service over a year. And on a part-time basis, that's the starting point. That includes a 2-week camp and a series of weekends and drill nights across the year. We typically travel overseas for our courses and annual camps. Next year, we're going to Jamaica. We also have the junior non-commissioned officers Carter going to North Carolina, and then we do courses all over the place as well. So it is a fantastic platform for personal development. You were talking earlier about engaging with people outside of your circle, with young people. This is a fantastic place to do that. Not in the same way that it happened during conscription, but in order to the regiment provides an opportunity to step into an organization where there is mentoring, professional development, challenge, travel, all these aspects that you just don't get in a normal day, 9-to-5 job. So if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to serve, if you're a former soldier, you can come back. If you are an expat or a spouse of an expat, and as long as you're legally resident on Bermuda, you can come join. So there are, the door is open, the opportunity is there, and I encourage anyone to check us out. Certainly next week, Saturday, check us out at rbr.bm and start the process of learning more. There's no commitment until you actually sign up. So we're here.
Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Simons, Royal Bermuda Regiment, thank you so much for the conversation. Appreciate it. And if you need us anytime before February to help ramp those numbers, please reach out. We'll be happy to have another conversation and get it going. But otherwise, have a wonderful day, sir.
You too. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Folks, if you appreciate that conversation with Colonel Duncan Simons, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. We're going to take our final break. And when we come back, I've got a question for you. Someone's going to be eligible for this week's prize. All right, stick with us.
Hey Daily Hour community, it's that time of year again. The Daily Hour's annual survey is live, and we want to hear from you. This is your chance to tell us what you love, what you'd like to see more of, and how we can make your viewing experience even better. It only takes a few minutes, and your feedback helps us shape our show for the year ahead. So don't wait, click the link, fill out the survey, and help us continue to improve our community one conversation at a time.
Take a look at our workwear for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places, and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Paired with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
All righty, welcome back to the big show. Thanks again to Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Simons from the Royal Bermuda Regiment for the conversation this morning. Folks, if you appreciated the discussion and the conversation today, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. It is time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, it's music today. And since some people in the audience ask about rap, we're going to do a rap one. All right, here's the question. Who co-produced Summertime with Will Smith? Okay, Anika Deshiel's got it first on my screen. She got it first on my screen. So Jazzy Jeff, yeah, DJ Jazzy Jeff. David Michael Wilson also got it. Facebook beat you, brother. So let's put Anika in this week's draw. All right, Anika. I thought Mark Arthur C. Phillips would have got that one. He always talking about rap. But congratulations to you, Anika. We'll put you in a draw for Friday. But folks, just want to, as we wrap it up, I want to say this about the U.S. election. Emotions run high, especially when we don't get our way, right? You saw how the Trump side reacted in 2020 when things didn't go their way. We're human beings, the human element, human emotions, right? But once the dust settles, it's important to take a step back and really figure out what went wrong and how do we make it right. That's what the Democratic Party needs to do. I'm not saying that race and gender had nothing to do with it, but it's so much deeper and bigger than that. Keep your eyes open for the throne speech on Friday in Bermuda, and do not be surprised if the Premier of Bermuda, David Burt, drops that writ for a December election. Be prepared. All right. The conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Simons. Look, folks, conscription, I will never, ever be a fan of it, in favor of it. But I'm all in favor of community advocacy, community activism, and community work. I do believe that the Bermuda Regiment provides a very much needed service in Bermuda, whether it's hurricanes or just Coast Guard helping protect and keep us safe. I hope that we have enough Bermudians that they can attract to keep the organization functional to its full capacity, so that it's not, doesn't become null and void. Daily inspiration today, I'll give you this one quote: "Once a task is just begun, never leave it till it's done. Be the labor, great or small, do it well or not at all." End quote. And that's the late Quincy Jones, who passed away earlier this week. All righty. Folks, please don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we can do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are out. Peace.